Alright, so today we'll do section 3.4, starting on page 190, which is complex fraction. So, fraction is just written in the form a over b, but a complex fraction is where you're going to have the numerator and denominator of those fractions also be fractions. So, like this, where you have 1/2 over 3/4. So, basically, what we're just going to do this entire lesson is we're going to take the complex fraction and rewrite it as division. So I can rewrite this as 1/2 divided by 3/4. So here we can now rewrite this as multiplication. So division is the same thing as multiplying by the reciprocal. So 1/2 times 3/4, we are able to actually evaluate that. 1 times 4 is 4, and 2 times 3 is 6. And then we can simplify this to 2/3. Alright, complex fractions can be where you only have one fraction, like these where it's just a fraction on top. Or you can have the fraction in the denominator, or we can have where you have a fraction on top and bottom. So any of these are considered complex fractions, and we're just going to rewrite it as division. So first example here, 8 over 25 divided by 25 over 4. Like I said, I'm going to rewrite that as division. 8 over 25 divided by 25 over 4. People might be tempted to cancel out right here because you have a 25 on top and bottom, but we're not multiplying, so you can't do that yet. So we need to change this to multiplication first. So 8 divided by 25 times the reciprocal here, which would be 4 over 25. So now we just multiply here. Oops, sorry. 8 times 4 is 32, and 25 times 25 is 6. 25. And then we can try and simplify that. So I'm going to be lazy here and punch this in on the calculator to check to see if it can simplify, which it cannot. So we're done. Alright, I'll also do this next example real quick. So here, if we rewrite this, we have 5/16 plus 1/4, and all of this is being divided by 1/4. So when you write this, since we are dividing all of it by 1/4, we have to use the parentheses here. So remember order of operations, we have to do parentheses first, which means I need a common denominator. So I'm going to rewrite this as 5/16, and 1/4 can be written as 4/16, and then I'm dividing by 1/4. So I can add what's in parentheses, 9 over 16, and now it's dividing by 1/4. Here I can rewrite this as multiplication. 9 over 16 times 4 over 1. Make note that this cannot be simplified. A lot of people, especially after going through the exponents unit, will want to be like, oh, we can take the square root of top and bottom, but taking the square root isn't simplifying, so just FYI there. Alright, so 9 times 4 on top and 16 times 1 on bottom. The reason I write it like this is because I know that 4 is and 16 can be simplified, and so I'm going to simplify these two before I do the multiplication. So 9 4 can become a 1, and the 16 can become a 4, and so that means I'm just left with 9/4. If you don't want to simplify it that way, what you can do is actually multiply it out. So 9 times 4 is 36 over 16, and 36 is divisible by 4, and 16 is divisible by 4, so 9/4. Either way you do it, it's the same thing, but just be aware that since we are multiplying these things, we can simplify before we actually do the multiplication.